The Auburn Tigers get it done, improve to 1-0 on the season, 70-52 against George Mason. I'm Zach Blackerby, host of Locked on Auburn. Thank you so much for making Locked on Auburn your first listen every single day. For some of you, it may be your third listen of the day. And joining me as he will after every basketball game this season, Montgomery Radio vet Daryl Dappridge. Big picture thoughts from this first game of the season for the Tigers.
The formula is still the same. The blueprint, the template, the way Auburn plays defense, how disruptive they are on defense, it masks a lot of ills. And I'll be honest with you, when you shoot the basketball now, the way Auburn shot it in an exhibition, allegedly a scrimmage against UAB, and then tonight, and then having a little bit of struggles from the free throw line, you can make up for that and mask that by the way they guard, the way they defend, the way they score the basketball in the open floor in transition. And that's exactly what it is. Big picture, they can run 10 or 11 bodies at you. They can do different lineups with different groupings on the floor. That chemistry is there. Everybody brings something different to the table. And again, just high-flying, athletic. They are so hard to play against offensively. I would hate, regardless when it gets to conference play or not, they're disruptive. They are so disruptive. They change your flow completely with the way they guard.
There's no question about it. Yeah, the defense was suffocating tonight. 14 steals, Daryl, 10 blocks. And, I mean, George Mason, there were times where you could tell how frustrated they were. They couldn't do anything. Especially like in the middle of the first half. And it's like they slowly adjusted over the course of the game. And then after they adjusted, they were all just exhausted because they didn't have the horses to run with the Auburn Tigers. But this is going to be kind of like last year. This is going to be a defensive team. I mean, they may have nights where they get hot from behind the arc, which it's a numbers game. It's eventually going to happen. But a lot of the times it's going to be like it was tonight. Auburn shot awful. From the floor, they were 24 of 71, 33.8%. That's awful. From three, 4 of 25, 16%. That's awful. And shooting free throws, Daryl, 62%, 18 of 29. Props to them for getting to the line 29 times. Mm-hmm. You got to perform better than that.
Yeah, and then you look at whatever they have to do to offset that. I mean, you can't. Let's be honest, you can't continue that. There are nights that if you shoot it like that, the opponent's going to shoot 40% and not turn it over 14 or 15 times, and you're going to be in trouble. So no matter how good you play defensively, and how well you rebound the ball, I think they were a plus 12 rebounding the basketball tonight. My stats aren't loading for me for some reason, but I think they're about a plus 12. Listen, the offensive rebounding, phenomenal. The way they chase down loose balls, misses that were clanking. Plus 11. Yep. And the way they were going after loose balls on offensive rebounds. I'm not talking about the ones that come right back to you in the lane. I'm talking about the ones you got to sprint 8, 9, 10 feet to get. Sideline to sideline. They did a great job tracking down balls along the baseline and the sideline and defensively. So, yeah, defensively they clamped down. Rebounding, steals, the turnovers. Look, if Auburn just shoots at average tonight, they beat George Mason 30. I mean, they absolutely boat raced George Mason. So at some point when Westry comes back and Auburn starts playing, deeper into the season, I think the free throw thing will work itself out. But they've got to – this team can win 25 to 28 games if they just shoot 30% from the line. Okay, I mean from the 3-point line. Just shoot 30%. With the havoc they cause defensively and how they get out and open – in the open floor, they're very athletic. I saw some oops again, but I'm going to tell you something that looks like the way they stack, the way the defense stacks against them. They looked at some things last year, I think, on film, and teams are going to try to guard Auburn a little bit differently. They're going to dare them to shoot the three, but it's also going to leave that little mid-range jumper that Zepp and Wendell, 3 or 4 consecutive possessions, Auburn hit that little elbow jumper, and it's going to be there. And if Auburn can hit the mid-range, if Wendell and Zepp and KD and when Chance comes back are patient enough to get to shoot that because the defense has given it to you, they can do a lot of damage at the elbow.
I'm there with you. All right, so you mentioned Chance Westry coming back, and I think that is going to change things offensively. I agree with you. What did you think of Chris Moore getting the nod starting at the 3 over Allen Flanigan?
Well, he played better tonight than Flanigan. What do you have, 8 points, and Flanigan had 3? I think Chris Moore, look, in a game where you win by 18, it kind of sounds comical to say, wow, that was a big point of the game. The 3 that he hit from the corner, it got a little bit hairy to me. I didn't like the way Auburn finished the first half, letting an 18-point lead get to 7, and it looked eerily similar to what happened last year when they'd start to lose focus with about 4 or 5 minutes left to go in any particular half. So, Auburn comes out, they get to double digits, then they get it to 12. Chris Moore's 8 points, his hustle, his cleaning up some boards around the rim, and then that 3 in the corner. I think he should have got more minutes. I think he could have gotten
Flanigan.
I think he could have got more minutes
than him. Flanigan played 22. Moore played 18. I'm there with you. The plus minus for Moore was significantly better. He played more with the starter. So, I mean, some of that's out of his control and just he gets to benefit from. But still, I'm with you. I wanted him to shoot the 3 ball more. Did he shoot it other than no?
I think it was 1 of 1. And it was a corner 3, which I like a lot because Auburn doesn't take very many corner 3s. And the way they move the ball around to get that open look, I really liked his game tonight. We talked during the last podcast we did after the exhibition game. You said, "What do you think will happen from this game until the next game?" And I said, "I suspect that Broome is going to play better." And he looked more explosive up until that dude rolled him from behind along the scores table. That was a little bit scary, but he looked a lot more.
If he was trying to sell the foul or if he was actually bothered, and he kind of kept doing it after,
It wasn't his ankle though. Luckily, I looked when they showed the replay. It was more of like the calf, but he looked so much. Yeah. He looked so much better tonight, and that him playing his back to the basket, a little teardrop. And let's be honest. I mean, Jalen Williams missed a couple shots. He still was solid tonight, but I think he could have gotten to double digits if a couple go down. KD played really, really well off the bench. I'm still his shot selection. This is the thing with Auburn. The thing that you love about them are the exact same thing you want to strangle them sometimes on the floor. It's such a love-hate thing. Auburn's up 15 with about 6 minutes to go. They have the basketball, and KD shoots it with 22 seconds left on the shot clock. I'm like, just a little bit, run the clock a little bit. I'm not asking the offense to go stagnant, but a little bit of awareness there. But that's how they play. You live and die with that. They love to get it and go.
That's a Bruce Pearl team. I'm with you on shot selection from guards, and once again, that's what a Bruce Pearl team is going to do. But I mean, just the efficiency is so concerning. Like Wendell Green, 5 of 14 from the floor. You don't love that. Other guards, Zep Jasper, who I'm wearing a shirt, repping Zep, 1 of 7 from the floor. Trey Donaldson, 0 of 4 from the floor. Katie Johnson, 4 of 13. Like, you don't like any of those. No. There's nothing efficient about any of the 4 guards tonight.
The reason why Auburn was able to get an 18-point win is because of the way they rebounded the basketball and turned the basketball over. The shots attempted were so much greater than George Mason because Auburn rebounded the basketball better and caused turnovers. So therefore, you may shoot 30%, but if you're shooting it twice as much as your opponent, math tells you you'll still get a lead. When they can't do that and the shots attempted are going to be close, that's where I'm concerned that you've got to hit at least 40 to 45% of your shots because, look, you can shoot 30% when you're shooting it twice as more than your opponent because of rebounding, offensive rebounds, and causing turnovers.
Yeah, George Mason had 69 possessions, and they turned it over,
19 times.
Yeah, their turnover percentage was 27%. So 1 out of every 4 possessions, they turned it over.
That's high. Wow. I mean, you'll win. Awesome. I mean, that's why you can shoot 34% and 16% from 3 and still beat somebody's eyes out. I mean, that's the thing. And again, we don't know exactly how healthy Flanigan, Broome, those guys that we heard, stomach flu, migraines, ankle, they may have been playing at 70%, right? We don't know how healthy. They may be completely healthy by the end of the week. George Mason, Adora, and Cooper were 2 guys that people said look for coming in. And Auburn did such a great job. I mean, you look at a guy that averages 17 a game in Adoro, and he had 8. I mean, Cardwell and Broom were his daddy tonight. And then Cooper had 6, but let's be honest, he hit 2 threes with 2 minutes left to go in the game, down 22.
Right.
And he only had 6. So Auburn defensively, again, did such a great job. 10 blocks. I mean, rim protectors. I loved, and the guards, again, the guards rebounded the basketball well.
So you mentioned 10 blocks, and I think it's a huge story of this. Is there any concern that 5 of them were from Dillon, 4 of them were from Broom, and then Allen got him 1? Would you have liked to see it more balanced, or are you okay with 2 people getting 90% of the blocks?
I'm okay with that because, one person got 80% of the blocks last year, it seemed like, with Walker Kessler. So, they threw that stat out that he had 155 blocks. And
doesn't seem real. It just doesn't seem real.
No, I'm like, are they talking about Lou Alcindor with UCLA, or are they talking about Walker Kessler? So even if you get 2 guys, if Auburn gets the same amount of blocks last year, but it was so Kessler heavy, and they get 2 or 3, 2 guys. I think that at the end of the day, I think Trehor is going to get some blocks too. So I think with him and then the other 2 with Cardwell and Broom, I think you're going to see a lot more balance. And Auburn could have more blocks this year than they did last year, just be more balanced.
Yeah, Trehor was 17 minutes. I feel like there's going to be nights where he's in the 20s. So we'll see. All right.
I liked him around the basket. I thought he did some. He only had 6 points, but he was 3 of 6, so he was a little more efficient from the field than everybody else, right?
No question.
That's where you look at these stats when you break these things down. If you're the Auburn coaching staff and you look at Trehor shooting 3 of 6, and you say, "Hey, shoot it 9 or 10 times next time, kid," and get in double digits.
Yep. All right. Tim Tolley asks, how well could we play against SEC teams later on in the season if we play consistently like this? I mean, that's part of it, right? It was like, you got to get better, right? I mean, you have to shoot better. Defensively, like we said, you're going to be in most games. But Daryl, like you said, if Auburn can just shoot 30% from the field or 30% from behind the arc, it's going to get you. You said 25 to 28. That seems high. Like, I just don't think there's any way this is a 28 win team in the regular season. That would be awesome.
I'm including the SEC tournament when I say that as well.
You're including postseason. Okay. I'm more okay with that then.
Yeah. I think defensively, you can play Auburn and a Bruce Pearl coach team. Shooting comes and goes. Sometimes ball handling comes and goes. Sometimes rebounds. You get out-rebounded. But defense travels. And Auburn will play defense at that level almost every night they take the floor because they can control that effort and the way they play. And the other reason why they can do it, and I agree with the color analyst, is you can play that kind of defense when you're running 11 guys out there.
Yeah.
So that phonetic pace and how hard they play, if you're way expend a lot of energy, when then you sit down and someone else comes in and expends the same kind of energy, that's why they can play that kind of defense, because they're playing 11 guys.
Do you think they'll be able to play 10 to 11 guys the whole season?
Yeah, this is what's different about this team. Now, again, this is just a guess.
This is without Westry, too.
This is without Westry, so you're going to get Westry, and that's
somebody asked, when does Westry come back? Zep Jasper earlier today is thinking 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah,
that's what he said on the show.
So, which is a little bit concerning, because a meniscus cleanup like that, he should be out another week. So maybe they're being super cautious with him. I'm not a doctor.
I think they've showed in the past, like with Allen's injury last year, like Bruce Pearl has kind of always seemed to be very cautious with that stuff.
Well, to get back to the point about depth, the reason why, last year Leor Borman played a lot of minutes. They had a lot of guys play a lot of minutes that as the SEC season took off, I can't see Auburn not playing at least 10 or 11. Any of the guys they ran out there tonight that got significant minutes, whose minutes are going to drop off, and then you add Westry. So yeah, they'll be playing 10, at least 10. Even into the SEC play, because it maybe Chris Moore's minutes go down when Westry comes back. Maybe Allen Flanagan's does, but somebody at the 3 is going to have to. Maybe Zep. I mean, I know you got him on your shirt there, but maybe Well, I know one
guy. He'd be okay with it if they want.
Trey Donaldson his minutes. He's got I was so high on him in the exhibition. He looked the moment looked a little big for him tonight. But I think that if he's going to have to step up, if he's going to get his 10 minutes a game. But I think they play 10, and I think if they play 10 in the SEC, and there's not a drop off when they start to substitute, it could be really, really special.
Yeah, I mean, it would be exhausting. It would be exhausting. All right, War Eagle WY says Cardwell and Moore's improvement year to year is just amazing. Everyone thinks BP is all about recruiting and one and dones, but Cardwell and Moore show he knows how to help players improve. Yeah, if that's a narrative, I'm not aware of it. I think that's why folks stay in his system, because they believe that they're going to get better over the course of it. I think that's why you haven't seen a whole lot of transfers out of the Auburn basketball program. I think the only kind of question mark in Bruce Pearl's development is shooting. Like, you don't see people take drastic jumps in shooting. There's a few exceptions, right? I think Malik Dunbar's went up, Bryce Brown's went up, but like for the most part, you don't really see these big jumps. So, I mean, as far as player development at Auburn goes, that's really the only kind of question I have on it.
Yeah, another guy like Jalen Williams, I think, has really developed too. When he started as a freshman and the way he is now, he's developed. He's really done a good job of coaching him up and develop him. So yeah, you don't see very many players regress under Bruce Pearl, and that's big. But you make a great point about shooters. I think you come into the system, you come into the program as a good shooter, you leave as a good shooter, and I don't think there's much improvement, year to year, where you say, wow, this guy really made a big leap from a shoot. I'm trying to think of the Final Four team. I mean, Harper and Bryce Brown were stroking it the year before. I'll tell you a kid who I felt like the only kid in Bruce Pearl's system that I don't think really improved much. He showed flashes, but was Purifoy. I think sometimes he really showed flashes in the NCAA tournament. He hit some big threes. But that was a guy that I thought from the time he got to Auburn till the time he left would have been markedly better. And I think he just kind of plateaued.
I get that. All right. As far as folks that stood out to me this evening, Daryl, Dylan Cardwell, 9 rebounds, a career high 5 blocks in just 15 minutes of play, only 2 points. But it's all about your role, right? And I think Dylan Cardwell, he only shot it once, and so and he made it. I thought that was a really under the radar performance by him.
He's the only guy on the floor that I feel like Auburn doesn't really create any shots for. At some point, if you watch Auburn play, they'll try to get the ball to Williams or to Broom or to Flanagan, or they'll try to get the ball to the perimeter to get these guys, the guards, open looks. Even Trehor, they look. Cardwell's got to create everything off misses. He doesn't. There's no offensive scheme that runs through him.
Do you want him shooting?
No, I'm just saying you're not going to post him up and say. So when he gets his points is going to be cleaning up around the basket. Yeah. Picking up loose balls, maybe a feed. Maybe if he goes to the basket, that little wraparound that Wendell Green's so good at, he'll get some of those. No, he didn't get the oop dunk. Broom did. I think Cardwell's was or did Cardwell get the alley oop as well, or was it a putback?
I think it was a putback.
Okay, but he does have the ability on that pick and roll. Sometimes they throw lobs to him.
Yeah,
and he gets dunked, so that's still there. And then again, I tell you, the Wendell Green off the backboard to Broom would have been special had he not got called for that charge. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, I tweeted out, I don't care what the refs say. That counted right here.
Yeah,
the refs can't take that away from us.
Yeah.
And for all of you in the live chat, leave us a comment who impressed you the most among all the Auburn Tigers this evening. And Daryl, I direct that question to you now. Who impressed you the most among all the Auburn players tonight?
Broom. I think, coming off the ankle in a boot, he showed me some flashes with his game around the basket. He hit some shots with a little spin move facing the basket.
Yep.
He hit some shots with his back to the basket. He got some good offensive, was really doing a good job on the offensive glass, keeping balls alive, tipping balls right to himself and keeping them alive. He played with a lot different energy, and he got into Dora's head. I mean, I think he frustrated him right from the get-go with the way he played defense. He played a complete game tonight. I mean, he wasn't just doing it at one end of the floor. He was doing it at both ends of the floor. So he impressed me the most. And then Chris Moore. Chris Moore came out and did everything. If you draw up a game plan and say, this is what I want Chris Moore to bring to the game and bring to the table, he fulfilled it tonight.
Yep. Matt Reeves in the comments said Chris Moore as well. I think that's an easy one. And normally, I mean, I don't think he's ever started here before, but normally his stat line, right, is like 10 minutes and he's like 3 or 4 for like 7 points or something like that. And his plus minus is like plus 12. And it's like, sweet, that was great. It's like, why didn't he do that more often? Why isn't he given that opportunity? So I'm excited to see what a bigger role for Chris Moore is. And I know we said this earlier, surprised he didn't play a little bit more, which is, I mean, you can make so many puns there if you wanted to, but I think 18 minutes, the more we talk about this and the more we talk about like, you got to fit Westry and all this, I think 15 to 18 minutes probably is about right for him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that gets affected when you know, at the end of the day, I think Flanagan and Moore's minutes get it's not going to be one or the other. It's going to be both. And so now you've got to split minutes for 3 guys, unless what I've been reading and hearing some things, unless Westry slides to the 2 and then Zepp's minutes gets affected a little bit, because KD Johnson's minutes are going to be what they are. I mean, that's just, he's going to play the minutes that he plays off the bench because of what he brings you instantly when he comes off the bench. So I don't know, maybe you could go hybrid, maybe you could go creative. You let Westry play the 2 and the 3, and then that limits the amount of minutes that gets cut between 3 dudes when you spread them out at 2 different positions.
Yeah, and if you put Westry at the 2, you could scoot Zepp into being like the backup 1, which we saw like for maybe 2 or 3 minutes tonight. We didn't see him play the 1 much. It was late in the game.
Use that experience, especially in SEC play. He's been in SEC arenas.
Maybe that takes minutes away from Trey Donaldson.
Yes, that would. I mean, that to me, you know, those 4 guard, that rotation is solid. And then you could, if Moore continues to ascend, you let him back up Flanagan at the 3, or Flanagan back him up at the 3. And then if either one of those guys are struggling, then you could go with the 3-guard lineup and go KD, Wendell, and Westry at the 3. He's got options, and Westry's 6'5". So, you know, you can you look closely and see what the 3 position is giving you. And if it's not producing, then you can slide somebody over there and go with the 3-guard lineup, basically, which you're doing anyway with Flanagan or Moore.
Yeah, I like the 3-guard lineup with Westry more now, because last year you couldn't sub out of it. And I think if you have Westry kind of that 3rd guard or whatever, you can actually sub out of it because you have 2 guards that aren't on the floor at that time. In that scenario, it would be Trey and Zepp, which I don't think we've seen them on the floor at the same time yet. So I don't know if that would actually work, but still, it's doable. It's doable to sub out of that. So, quick shout out to our friends at BetOnline. Daryl, it is the best place to wager on all of your sports gambling needs. The line was 12.5. So good teams win, but Daryl, great teams covered. Get in on the action. USF coming up this Friday. They lost to a very bad team, as they say, as Brian pointed out in the comments. USF just lost a bad game to Ken Palm, number 311. So Friday's game may be a pretty big spread. So if you feel good about the Tigers bouncing back and maybe shooting a little bit better than they did tonight, get in on the action. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. How do you feel about this upcoming USF matchup, Daryl?
I like, obviously, I think I'm looking for Auburn to continue to roll, and I think there's going to be some progress. There's going to be some things that we probably see Friday night that we go, okay, well, they took care of some things. They cleaned up some things and got a little bit better. I think shooting the basketball is going to be of paramount. I mean, you know, it's one of those deals where you can't just flip a switch. But when you do start getting hot and it does start going in, it gets contagious. So I like Auburn's chances Friday night. I know that was a little bit tougher game last year than it needed to be. That game was on the road. That was a game that Bruce Pearl strategically played in Amalie Arena. So because that's where the conference tournament was being held. So they got in there and were used to the venue. But I think at home at Neville Arena, I think Auburn really puts on a show Friday night.
Yep. All right, let's open this up to questions or comments. Hit us up if there's something from tonight's game that we did not cover or something about this team that we have not covered yet this evening. We got a few more minutes left. Would love to talk about the things that you guys want us to discuss. Jalen Williams starting at the 4. I absolutely loved. His stat line to me wasn't really characteristic of him, Daryl. Just 7 points, 2 of 5 shooting. If you tell me that Jalen Williams is going to shoot the ball 5 times, I'm going to predict he's scoring more than 7 points. But that's how it went tonight.
Well, he got one taken away when they called him for a offensive charge.
Good
so
point.
that would have been 9. I mean, the ball went in. He made a nice little drop step move, and it could have went either way, right? It could have got him to. I thought he was going to go to the free throw line. I thought it was an and 1, and they called the charge.
I think he did too.
Yeah. So I mean, that just goes to show you how he's he's a quiet assassin, man. There's going to be games this year that me and you're going to be doing this right now. We're going to go, Jalen Williams had 18, and that's what's going to happen. I mean, you just mark it down.
Was.
Yes, you mark it down. I mean, we looked at
he has 14. How?
You got up to go get a soft pretzel. You were gone for about, I thought you were on the side of a milk cart. You were gone for about 15 minutes, and he goes from 2 to 18 points just like that. I'm like, Zach, you've missed 16.
I saw all of it.
You did.
It was just really too close down there, and I just needed a second.
But I mean, that's how fast you could go to the bathroom, go get a pretzel, and Jalen Williams could have 8 more points to the time you leave your seat.
And they're quiet.
And they're quiet. He's just I mean, listen, that we were with some people that were talking about how he's the epitome of an unselfish basketball player. Mm-hmm. And any roster that has championship aspirations needs guys like him and Dylan Cardwell, who don't start. Well, Williams will start, but he's not in the limelight, and he hasn't been for 3 years. And now is his time. It's his time. And what Bruce Pearl said last year. So Cardwell and him, you need those guys. And they're just, man, they epitomize what it is to be a team basketball player. But again, I think Jalen Williams is going to surprise some folks with what he ends up averaging at the end of the year.
Yep. Jalen Williams tied for the team lead in plus minus. I overreact to plus minus. It's just who I am. But he had plus 18. Zep Jasper also had plus 18 despite being 1 of 7 from the floor.
Wow, that's surprising. But it goes to show you intangibles, right? He did play very, very hard, played good defense.
Great defense.
When he was on the floor, whatever happened, that unit that he was with from a continuity standpoint got it done. And when you win by 18 and you're a plus 18, that's pretty sweet. I mean, at the end of the day, you look at that kind of stuff and you say, who gives us the best chance to extend leads? Again, coming out at halftime, I was not feeling good. I got a little grumpy with the last 4 or 5 minutes because I thought it was going to be blowout city. The crowd was going crazy. Auburn gets up 18. And then what happens? K.D. Johnson looks like he has an opportunity to get it to 21. One official gives the signal that count the basket. The other official calls the charge, and you go from a 20-point lead, and they come down and hit 3 threes in a row to just get that lead down to 9 and then get it to 7. Mm-hmm. I think it was a 13-2 run before the half. And I hate going into halftime like that. And one thing Bruce Pearl's not going to do, didn't call timeout, didn't stem the run at all, just let it go. And it was a 13-2 run. I saw the way George Mason came off the court sprinting to the locker room. Well, they're fired up. So give Auburn credit for the way they came out in the second half. Again, the middle of halves is where they are at their best. I mean, they get separation. They start to get on a roll. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. Middle of the first half, middle of the second half, they took control of the basketball.
The middle of the first half, for sure. I mean, it looked like it was about to get really bad.
I thought they were going to get to 23, 24.
Yeah, me too.
And so,
Brian put a quote in here from Bruce's postgame presser. BP saying, quote, "These roles aren't defined yet. There's so much parity, so much balance that I'm going to let them define their role."
That's true. There is parity. It's good parity. There's 11 dudes that can play at any given time and probably start for a lot of schools in the country that are going to be shuffled in and out. And at the end of the day, they will decide who's going to be on the floor at key points with the way they play. And that's all you want as a coach.
Right. Ashton asking, do you think Auburn is in for a deep postseason run if we clean some stuff up? It all comes back to the shooting, right?
Mm-hmm.
It all comes back to timely shooting. And to me, I don't see where that's going to come from consistently. But in the postseason, right, you only need it for a few games in a row, and all of a sudden, why not us, right? So
it's not only timely shooting. Yeah, it's there. The potential's there. I think it's not only timely shooting. I get back to shot selection too. It's one thing to miss wide open threes. There was some shots that looked step back threes, hand in the face, really deep threes that looked forced. So, a little better. One thing you can control from a shooting standpoint is when you shoot the basketball, and you much rather have open looks. So shot selection is something you can control to help your field goal percentage. Whether or not it goes in, you can't. But shot selection, you have control over. And better shot selection, to me, leads to better field goal percentages.
I'm there with you, man. I'm there with you. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap this thing up, Daryl?
Yeah, just real quick. I think that overall, again, looking at the overall picture for a first game, a lot of players played. This team, the way this team looks right now, I would be shocked if in January we're seeing a completely different team from a cohesive standpoint and how they do certain things. The defense and the rebounding, I think, is going to be there all year. But I think you're going to see a little more flow offensively, a little better shooting when Westry comes back and roles start to get more defined.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Ben pointing out 3-point shooting tonight was disgusting. Yes, that is true.
Thank you, Ben. We feel your pain.
No, that's the first thing we touched on, Ben, but you're absolutely right. It's been a minute since we brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
JC asking, can Bryce come back and play with this team? That'd be fun. Wouldn't that be fun?
It would be fun, yeah.
AJ saying a Miami repeat if you can't shoot. Talk about Auburn's loss in the NCAA tournament to Miami last year. Ben asking, when is Westry back? Sounds like it's going to be about 2 weeks. Ben, he's just getting back on the floor, and I think they're being really, really careful with his recovery, which Bruce has a history of being cautious with injuries, especially to start the season. So that is a long-term investment. You want Westry to be very healthy when he comes back.
Doesn't bother me because the rumors we heard, I don't think he's a one and done, but people are saying could be very, very special. The longer he waits to take the wrapper off of him and debut him, if Auburn keeps winning, the better chance that he'll have some things to work on and come back next year.
Right. What do you give me a prediction? What do you think the spread against USF will be? Auburn by
15.
15. I think that's a good line.
That's the line. I think Auburn wins between 18 and 22.
So you're taking Auburn on BetOnline?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would have taken Auburn tonight. I thought, in fact, in the Discord, I said if Auburn doesn't win anywhere between 15 and 20, it'll be disappointing. Not panicking, but I look for them because people were talking about this and they did. They got 3 or 4 transfers. They were picked 5th in the A10. They were 14 and 16 last year, but they returned their top 2 scorers and went out and got 3 transfers. That made an immediate impact tonight. The kid from Oregon, the kid from Virginia Tech, they both made some impact tonight and played pretty decent when their top 2 scorers, Cooper and Adoro, did not. So, they're a team that's improved over last year, but I just felt like Auburn, with its depth, playing at home, should win that game between 15 and 20, and they made me look smart.
Yeah, the SEC dominating tonight, which is no surprise. I mean, no marquee matchups. In fact, of all the ranked teams playing tonight, George Mason was the highest ranked team playing a top 25 team this evening. So I guess technically Auburn was most likely to get upset.
That Memphis Vanderbilt score, I was interested. I know that Memphis was beating Vanderbilt by 10. Yeah, I don't know how that game.
They won 76-67. That's the only loss in the conference tonight.
And that's okay. That's interesting. And that's a team Auburn faces December 10th in Atlanta. So, NIL money flowing, I heard, pretty heavily in Memphis. Penny Hardaway's got some players. So
that should surprise no one. Yeah.
Nope. It should not. That's going to be an interesting matchup.
See if anything else interesting happened in the top 25, and it doesn't look like it. So pretty boring night as far as college basketball. But Daryl, it's back. Number 14, TCU, which is 1 spot ahead of Auburn, so that may be interesting. They won 73-72 against Arkansas Pine Bluff, and That was the closest of all the games this evening.
Well, they should drop behind Auburn then. If they beat Pine Bluff by 1,
sure.
Dang it, they better drop. And then I know Arkansas early was only up 4 or 5, but they must have pulled away late.
Yeah, I think they won by double digits. So, Daryl, how can people check out everything you got going on, brother?
You can follow me on social media right down there, DAP6410 on Twitter. We'd be glad to see that. And then Monday mornings from 7:10 to about 7:30 on Good Morning Auburn Opelika with our good friend Ben Taylor on News Talk WANI. We do like a little sports segment. We talk about everything. We've talked baseball. We've talked recruiting. We talk Auburn. So it's, everything's – we haven't talked golf because I know Ben likes golf, but that's
he
not
does
my
love
deal.
Golf. Yeah.
So, but we've talked about it all, and it's a fun little segment. I really enjoy doing it. So that's how you can check me out.
Awesome. Folks watching, please like this video. Really helps the channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. Would really, really appreciate it. You can read all my written work at auburndaily.com. We'll be back tomorrow right here on Locked On Auburn.